What's up, guys? I'm Chris, and today you're watching a magic review on Carnival by Steve Dela. What is Carnival? Carnival is a different take on Steve's probably most well-known effect, which is Will to Read, or Will to Read Lite. So this is basically Will to Read Lite with a revamp. So with Carnival, it comes with a backstory as to why you're carrying this around and to why you're even presenting all of this the way you are. So, it kind of has some a good presentation factor and some justification to why you are carrying this card on you, which is always nice. So the card itself, as far as quality goes, it's cardstock. It looks good. I do really like the look of this, down to the font, the aging look of the card itself. Now you are going to want to age this further because in the beginning it will be perfectly square or rectangle, and it'll be flat. Like it'll just look like a regular cardstock type thing with an aged look as in regards to like the coloring around it and the kind of older fainted font. But what I did was I rolled this up kind of a number of times. I burnt the edges. That's really all, but I think it did give it a good aged look. So it's interesting. It's unique. It kind of draws people in because I think kind of old aged antique things or whatever like have an interesting feel to them, like in the sense that you want to get to know more about what that object is. So that's what this is. Just basically a revamp or different way to present Will to Read Lite. So for those of you who don't know what Will to Read is, it is a Steve's take on the free will plot. So basically you would show that you have a card here. I don't show this long enough to where they can read it because that's kind of your revelation, but you could just take this, set it off to the side. You don't even have to show this in the beginning. You can just kind of go into the storytelling and say that you have something, place that off to the side, to which you introduce a pen, a coin, and a card. Now, with this, since it has an older look to it, I would probably present like a card that kind of matches the effect. So an aged card of some sort, maybe a playing card, or like business cards could work. That's usually what I use in the regular Will to Read. But if you're kind of following the presentation of this being kind of a bizarre and older story, then I think what you use with that card, you want it to seem older. So you could even use an old photograph that you're just calling a card. That would still work. And then the coin and the pen. So I have a nice kind of older looking pen that I use with this, but it's not necessary. Like you can just borrow objects, and that's the other nice thing about this is you can find a pen anywhere, you can find a coin anywhere, and you can find something that would work as a card. So if your participant has a business card, you could use their card, their pen, their coin. Doesn't matter. But if you want to kind of play into the presentation, then you might want to have your own stuff. The free will plot is that they can choose between three objects. First thing they choose might go in the pocket, and then they could give you one or they could keep one. All the choices are completely theirs. And because this is multiple outs, this works in a way where you aren't really doing Magician's Choice, or at least it doesn't look that way. It really looks fair. What do you get? You'll get the card. That's really it. You get the card, which you will want to age to your liking. You'll get another card, which is your tutorial, and then you'll get a little card sleeve, which I like that Steve included this because it just protects it, right? Now that I mentioned that it protects this, that's another, there's some good justification here with your multiple outs, because since this is a multiple outs card, if you are revealing this way, and they want to take it, you just, sorry, like this thing's falling apart. I don't want to bring it out of the sleeve. So that is justification for them not taking the card and examining it. Okay, so I guess while I just mentioned that, is this examinable? Can it be inspected? I would say yes, because you have the justification for them not examining this specific item. They can examine the pen, they can examine the coin, they can examine the card. If it's your stuff and if it's theirs, then there's no heat or no suspicion on that anyway, because you're borrowing things. Now, the tutorial, it's just a PDF file. There's really not a lot that you need to know. If you have any experience with the free will plot, you basically don't even need the tutorial, but it's there to kind of talk about a presentation or storyline that you can use with this, so I'd recommend going over it. A lot of you probably already are familiar with Will to Read or Will to Read Lite, so again, if you know how that works or you own that, then you already know how this works and how it's done. But the difficulty level, it's very, very simple. And there are ways to basically eliminate any memory work. And even the memory work, if it is there, it's so simple because you're only remembering a couple things. Setup and reset, there really isn't any setup. You can borrow the objects. Reset, the only reset is if you take this out, then you put it back in. So instant reset. Arts and crafts, there is none, but I would recommend aging the card yourself just to give it a more authentic look. And I've seen some of the different cards that people have aged, and some people have gotten really creative. I really like how mine turned out. So, just play around with it. Age it a lot, age it a little, doesn't matter. And I will mention that there is also a Facebook group that is connected to All About Eve, which is the full-size book test by Steve Dela, but then also Will to Read. So Will to Read, for those of you that don't know, is the original, not this one, but the original is also a one-page book test. So that's why the group is kind of a compilation of All About Eve and Will to Read. But a lot of people have shared their Carnival cards in there and their ideas. So check out that group if you pick this up or if you own Will to Read or All About Eve. Yeah, the difficulty level on this is very, very simple, very easy to do. Angles, there are no angle restrictions. The only angle restriction that you may have is to do with this card, but there's so many ways around that to where they don't even need to see both sides. So I wouldn't even really say that there's any angle restrictions. Pocket space, and is this a worker? It's a single card. You can either keep it in the sleeve or you can just throw the card itself in your wallet or in your pocket. Since it is just one single card, it takes up basically zero pocket space. If you're carrying your own items, then just consider a pen, a card, and a coin, which again takes up almost no pocket space. But the fact that it can be borrowed means you don't even have to carry those things. Is it a worker? Absolutely. This is because you can borrow things and it takes up hardly any pocket space. You can do this table hopping, strolling, close up. Doesn't matter, you name it. I mean, you can do this stage if you want, right? It's the plot or the principle behind it. It's not so much about the size of the objects or whatever. So really, you can use this in any environment, any setting. The other nice thing about this being a worker is that if you use your business card, then you let them keep that in the end. Now they have your information. Who would use this? So this is built around mentalism, but you don't have to be a mentalist to do this. It's one of those just really easy routines that anybody could do. So even if you're a magician that does very little mentalism, this wouldn't seem out of place. The price on this, and is it worth your money? So this is $20. Some people might think, oh, that's expensive for a piece of card, but it's not even that. It's the effect behind it. So that's, I think, what you're paying for is more so the routine. Even if you already own Will to Read and you are just getting basically a piece of card because you already have Will to Read, I still feel that this is worth the $20 because it's supporting Steve, right? Steve puts out some great material. Basically everything Steve's released is extremely good. So even if you are just getting a piece of card because you already know the effect, well, then you're supporting Steve. So I don't think that $20 is outrageous for this. some might argue there because of what you get, but again, you're getting the routine, the card, a great alternate story presentation to Will to Read, and then the support to a great creator. Pros and cons, positives and negatives. The only negative some might feel is $20 for a piece of card, but I've already went over that and to why I think that that's a fair price for sure. The pros, I like how this whole routine is pretty much self-working. It's very easy to do, can be done with borrowed objects. It's a powerful effect. And it can just be done on the fly. Like, it doesn't have to seem like you're presenting magic or anything at first, right? It all works out in the end, but you can play this off to however you want. Very good for working, strolling, table hopping. The list goes on for pros. I would definitely recommend this. I would pick this up. I think it's only available directly through Steve and his website, which is Steve Dela online shop. I'll put a link in the description below just so that you can go right there. And with that, I think that's all I got. So we will see you at the next review.